What if I told you that the Romans grew more food in their city gardens than most modern farms produce on acres of land? While you're replanting tomatoes every single spring and watching them die every winter, ancient Roman gardeners planted once and harvested for 25 years straight. The techniques they used are so simple, yet 99% of modern gardeners have never heard of them. Stick around, because what I'm about to show you will completely change how you think about gardening efficiency. Welcome back to GrowWise Vision, where we uncover the ancient secrets that modern gardening forgot. I'm fascinated by how ancient civilizations achieved results that seem impossible by today's standards. The Romans weren't just building aqueducts and roads, they were masters of efficient food production. Their gardens fed millions of people across an empire, and they did it with techniques that required a fraction of the work we put into our gardens today. Today, we're diving into 7 specific Roman gardening methods that are just as effective now as they were 2,000 years ago. Before we get into these techniques, let me give you some context about why Roman gardening was so revolutionary. The Roman Empire stretched across 3 continents. They needed to feed massive populations in cities where space was limited. They couldn't afford to waste time, water, or soil. So they developed systems that maximized every square foot while minimizing labor. What's remarkable is that modern agricultural science has proven these ancient methods work even better than many contemporary approaches. The Romans understood something fundamental about plants and soil that our industrial agriculture system forgot in the rush for short-term yields. These techniques aren't just historical curiosities. They're practical solutions you can implement this weekend. Technique number 1. Perennial asparagus beds that produce for decades. The Romans were obsessed with asparagus. They documented planting techniques in agricultural texts that survive to this day. But here's what makes their approach brilliant. They didn't treat asparagus like a temporary crop. They created permanent raised beds, filled them with composted manure and sand for drainage, and planted asparagus crowns deep. Then they walked away. Roman asparagus beds produced for 25 years or more without replanting. Compare that to modern vegetable gardening, where you're starting from scratch every spring. The efficiency is staggering. One Roman writer named Pliny the Elder described asparagus spears growing so thick you could barely hold them in one hand. Modern science confirms why this works. Asparagus develops massive root systems when planted properly. Those roots store energy and nutrients for decades. Each spring, the plant uses that stored energy to send up new spears. The Roman method of deep planting in enriched, well-drained soil creates the perfect conditions for these long-lived root systems. You can replicate this today. Plant asparagus crowns 8 inches deep in a raised bed filled with compost. Water them the first season, then largely ignore them. By year 3, you'll be harvesting for the next 2 decades. That's Roman efficiency. Plant once, harvest for a generation. Technique number 2. Companion planting that eliminates the need for fertilizers. The Romans didn't have synthetic fertilizers. They had something better. Observation. Roman agricultural writers documented which plants grew well together and which combinations actually improved soil. They noticed that planting beans near grain crops made both plants more productive. What they observed, modern science calls nitrogen fixation. Legumes like beans and peas have root nodules containing bacteria that convert atmospheric nitrogen into plant-available nutrients. The Romans planted beans, peas, lentils, and vetch throughout their gardens, not in separate plots. They understood these plants were feeding the soil while producing food. One Roman technique that's especially clever involved planting grapevines with nitrogen-fixing ground covers beneath them. The vines got a constant supply of nutrients without any external inputs. Modern vineyards are finally rediscovering this ancient wisdom. Here's how you use this today. Never plant a garden bed with just one crop family. Always include legumes. Plant pole beans to climb your corn. Grow peas in early spring before planting tomatoes in the same bed. The peas will feed nitrogen into the soil that your tomatoes will use all summer. Plant clover as a living mulch around perennial plants. The Romans proved this works 2,000 years ago. Modern agriculture is still catching up. Technique number 3. Stone mulch for water conservation in Mediterranean climates. If you've ever seen pictures of ancient Roman gardens, You might have noticed something that looks odd to modern eyes. Stones, lots of them. The Romans deliberately placed stones around the base of plants and along garden paths. This wasn't decoration, it was engineering. Stone mulch serves multiple functions. During the day, stones absorb heat from the sun. At night, they release that heat slowly, protecting plants from temperature drops. More importantly, stones reduce water evaporation from the soil surface. Mediterranean summers are brutal. Water was precious even with Roman aqueducts. Stone mulch allowed gardens to thrive with minimal irrigation. Modern research in arid climate agriculture has rediscovered this technique. Studies show that rock mulch can reduce irrigation needs by up to 50% compared to bare soil. The stones also provide habitat for beneficial insects and lizards that eat garden pests. It's a complete ecosystem management strategy. To use this Roman technique, collect smooth river rocks or purchase landscape stones. Place them in a layer 2 to 3 inches deep around perennial plants, fruit trees, and along garden edges. Don't cover the entire garden. Leave spaces for annual plantings. But anywhere you have permanent plantings, stone mulch provides the same benefits Romans relied on. In hot, dry climates, this single technique can transform your water usage. Technique number 4. Espalier training for maximum yield in minimum space. Roman cities were crowded. Garden space was limited. So Romans developed intensive training techniques for fruit trees. Espalier is the practice of training tree branches to grow flat against walls or fences. The Romans perfected this method. They could grow a full-size apple or pear tree in a space only 12 inches deep. The benefits go beyond space saving. Espaliered trees produce more fruit per square foot than naturally growing trees. Here's why. Training branches horizontally slows vertical growth and triggers fruiting. The tree puts energy into producing fruit instead of growing taller. Additionally, fruits on espalier trees get more sunlight exposure and air circulation. This means better ripening and fewer disease problems. Roman texts describe elaborate espalier systems along villa walls, where dozens of fruit varieties grew in spaces that would normally hold maybe 3 or 4 trees. Modern research confirms that espaliered fruit trees can produce 3 to 5 times more fruit per square foot of garden space compared to freestanding trees. You can start using this technique with any young fruit tree. Plant it 12 to 18 inches from a south-facing wall or fence. As branches grow, tie them horizontally to training wires. Prune vertical shoots. Within 3 to 4 years, you'll have a productive tree in a space that seems impossibly small. This is Roman innovation at its finest. They refused to let limited space limit their food production. Technique number 5. Hotbed systems for year-round growing without greenhouses. Romans wanted fresh vegetables in winter. They didn't have modern greenhouses or heating systems. What they had was genius. Hotbeds. A hotbed is a raised growing area heated from below by decomposing organic matter. Romans would dig a pit about 3 feet deep, fill it with fresh horse manure mixed with straw, then cover it with 6 to 12 inches of quality soil. As the manure decomposed, it generated heat. Lots of heat. This underground heating system could keep soil temperatures warm enough to grow lettuce, herbs, and other greens throughout winter. Roman Emperor Tiberius was reportedly obsessed with cucumbers and demanded them year-round. His gardeners used hotbed systems to provide fresh cucumbers even in the coldest months. This isn't just historical legend. Agricultural archaeologists have found remains of Roman hotbed systems at villa sites across the empire. The modern equivalent would be heated greenhouse beds, but those require electricity or gas. The Roman method uses free heat from decomposition. Here's how to build a Roman hotbed today. In fall, dig a trench 3 feet deep and as long as you want your bed. Fill the bottom 18 inches with fresh manure from horses, chickens, or rabbits mixed with carbon-rich materials like straw or leaves. Water it until moist. Cover with 12 inches of good garden soil. Plant cold-tolerant crops immediately. The bed will stay warm for 4 to 6 months. By spring, when the heating effect fades, you've got incredible soil enriched by decomposed manure. Plant your summer crops in that same bed. The Romans understood that decomposition equals free energy and better soil. 2 benefits from one technique. Technique number 6. Perennial herb gardens that self-propagate for generations. Romans loved their herbs. Culinary herbs, medicinal herbs, aromatic herbs for bathing. But they didn't replant herb gardens every year. Roman herb gardens were designed as permanent installations that would outlive the gardener. They chose perennial species and planted them in locations where they could spread and self-sow. Key Roman herbs included rosemary, sage, thyme, oregano, lavender, and mint. All perennials, all capable of living for decades. Romans planted these herbs in well-drained soil, often on slopes or in raised beds with sandy soil. Once established, these herbs needed almost no care. They're drought-tolerant, pest-resistant, and many actually produce more aromatic oils when slightly stressed. The Roman approach was to plant once and harvest forever. Many European herb gardens today are direct descendants of Roman plantings. Some monastery gardens have rosemary plants that are hundreds of years old, likely started from cuttings that trace back to Roman gardens. Modern research shows these perennial herbs also improve soil health, attract pollinators, and can even repel certain garden pests. To create a Roman-style herb garden, choose a sunny, well-drained spot. Plant perennial herbs in spring. Space them generously because they'll spread. Water regularly the first season, then reduce watering. These herbs thrive on neglect. Within 3 years, you'll have more herbs than you can use. Share cuttings with friends. Your Roman herb garden will outlast you and provide abundance for decades with almost zero work. Technique number 7. Crop rotation based on plant families to prevent soil depletion. The Romans understood something that modern industrial agriculture often ignores. You can't grow the same crop in the same location year after year without consequences. Roman agricultural writers like Columella documented detailed crop rotation systems. They grouped plants into categories based on what we now call plant families. Heavy feeders like cabbage and lettuce were followed by legumes that replenished nitrogen. Root crops followed leafy crops. The pattern prevented any single nutrient from being depleted. What's remarkable is that Romans didn't have modern soil testing. They couldn't measure nitrogen, phosphorus, or potassium levels. They simply observed what worked over generations and codified it. Modern soil science has proven the Roman system was remarkably accurate. Different plant families have different nutrient needs and pest vulnerabilities. Rotating crops breaks pest cycles and balances nutrient use. The Roman rotation system typically worked on a 3 to 4 year cycle. Year 1, heavy feeders. Year 2, light feeders. Year 3, legumes to restore soil. Year 4, root crops. Then back to heavy feeders. This pattern, documented in Roman texts, is essentially identical to what organic farming recommends today. To implement Roman crop rotation, divide your garden into sections. Never plant vegetables from the same family in the same section 2 years in a row. Tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants are all in the nightshade family. If tomatoes grew in section A this year, plant them in section B next year. Follow them with beans or peas in section A. This simple pattern prevents disease buildup and maintains soil fertility. The Romans proved this system feeds empires. It'll certainly feed your family. Let's step back and look at what these 7 Roman techniques really represent. They're not just gardening tips. They're a complete philosophy of working with nature instead of fighting it. Modern industrial agriculture treats soil as an inert growing medium that needs constant external inputs. Romans understood soil as a living system. They built permanent installations. Perennial crops. Long-lived fruit trees. Herb gardens that outlasted generations. They captured free energy from decomposition. They used companion planting to create self-fertilizing systems. Every technique reduces labor while increasing yields. That's efficiency in its purest form. What's most striking is that modern science keeps validating these ancient methods. Permaculture, the hot new approach to sustainable agriculture, is largely rediscovering Roman techniques. No-till farming. Perennial polycultures. Intensive space utilization. The Romans did all of this 2,000 years ago. The difference is they did it because they had to be efficient. We do it because we're finally realizing our modern methods aren't sustainable. So here's my challenge to you. Pick one Roman technique from this video and implement it this season. Start an asparagus bed that'll feed your family for decades. Try companion planting beans with your heavy feeders. Build a stone mulch system around your perennials. Train a fruit tree along your fence. Create a hotbed for winter greens. Plant a permanent herb garden. Rotate your crops by family. Start with one, master it, then add another. Within a few seasons, your garden will transform from an annual project into a permanent food production system. You'll work less and harvest more. That's the Roman promise, and it delivers. If you found this video valuable, hit that subscribe button because we're diving deep into ancient gardening wisdom that modern agriculture forgot. Next week, we're exploring perennial crops you plant once and harvest for 20 years. These are the techniques that let ancient farmers feed empires, while modern gardeners struggle to keep tomatoes alive. Don't miss it. Until then, think like a Roman. Build permanent systems, work with nature, and remember, the best gardening advice might be 2,000 years old.